In a world full of noise and second-hand experience, what does it mean to really know something for yourself? Which is better, a questioning Thomas or a passive believer living on borrowed faith? Hello, this is Anthony Puduseri. Today we meet an apostle of Jesus who refused to settle for borrowed faith. He is often remembered with the nickname Doubting Thomas. But if we look closely, what we see is not just doubt, but a deep, absolute insistence for the original experience of the risen Lord. When Thomas returned home after Jesus' resurrection, he heard the news from his fellow disciples, the risen Jesus has visited them. But he insisted, unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. Thomas was not going to live on second-hand experience. He refused to settle for borrowed faith, borrowed values, borrowed enthusiasm. And that is a powerful reminder for all of us today. We are not called to live on borrowed experience, are we? When we don't have that deep personal encounter, it is easy to fall into confusion and dilemmas in times of crisis. It is like the story of dogs chasing after bones. Only the dog that has sniffed the real bone and seen it runs after it until he gets it. The others are just running after shadows, never grasping the real thing. And that is the difference between the real seekers and shallow imitators. The persistence comes after having tasted or seen the real thing, just like Thomas the Apostle wanted. Which is better, you think? A questioning Thomas or a passive believer living on borrowed faith? I believe a questioning Thomas is always better than someone living on false impressions or second-hand faith. Disciples of Jesus are called to be rooted in the original inspiration, aren't they? We are called to live not on borrowed values, not on borrowed experience. Thomas is our hero in many ways. The man who insisted for the original experience of the risen Lord. Thomas was pragmatic. He wanted something very tangible, something real. So when Jesus tells his disciples that he is going to prepare a place for them, he says, "You know the way to the place where I am going?" But Thomas speaks up and says, "Lord, we don't know where you are going. So how can we know the way?" Notice, it is not that Thomas doubts Jesus' teaching. It is that Thomas wants clear, exact directions. He wants to really understand. He is not satisfied with vague ideas, assumptions. He is saying, "Show me." And that is honest faith. A faith that seeks clarity, a faith that asks questions. His questioning spirit, his desire for proof was not weakness, it was deep commitment to truth and to Christ himself. And when Jesus finally appears and invites Thomas to touch his wounds, what is Thomas' response? Not just "I believe," but "my Lord and my God." A declaration for deep personal faith. Friends, a questioning heart like Thomas is a heart on the way to the true faith. Don't be afraid of asking questions. Don't settle for borrowed experiences. Seek your own encounter with Christ, because the faith that seeks becomes the faith that truly sees. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment below. See you next time.